right. Welcome to the CDO Magazine Data Leader Interview Series. I'm Lance Walter. I'm the CMO at Prophecy, where we help all data users get the data they need with self-service data prep. We work with some of the world's largest organizations. These are companies like JP Morgan Chase, HSBC, Amgen, Marks and Spencer. We're helping them reimagine data preparation for the data cloud era and deliver self-service so that their data experts can get their expertise in the process, but still have the governance needed so that they can unlock AI and BI use cases with proper controls. Super excited today to have the opportunity to speak with Brian Kursar, Group Vice President and Head of Enterprise AI at Toyota Motor North America. Brian heads up a unique, dedicated team to bring AI use cases into the business while ensuring that AI's use and the data that drives it are up to the high standards of Toyota, one of the world's longstanding leaders in manufacturing innovation. Let's jump right in. Brian, thanks so much for being here with us today. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your role and how you came to be at Toyota?
Sure. So I'm Brian Kursar. I have worked at Toyota over 20 years. Started off in vehicle supply chain, writing test harnesses to test our global supply chain systems. And then from there, graduated to really diving deep into data and recognizing that data really is one of the most powerful assets a company has. And so probably in the early 2010s, I was instrumental in really driving the adoption of data science. So we established our first data science organization back in probably 2012. And then by 2013, really kind of solidified a data-driven culture at Toyota and really kind of continued to drive usage of data and optimizing decision support and making it available for all of our business units.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brian. Can you talk a little bit then? So, very useful history. Talk a little bit about how AI is being used at Toyota today. What are some of the themes that are driving AI adoption? What are some of the use cases where you're seeing AI have an impact?
So we've been kind of on this AI journey for probably about 2.5 years now. Really kind of started as a recognition that AI would be useful not just inside our vehicles for our, like, let's say, for instance, our virtual agent, which was something that I had done in a previous life, but also how can we leverage AI to really accelerate human intelligence, to be able to be kind of that true partner for each and every employee, to be able to kind of automate a lot of the mundane tasks, but also to optimize productivity. And so we use it in our manufacturing. We actually created a application called GearPal, which is really kind of consolidates a lot of the data that we have in our ticketing system. So like the service desk has a lot of the repair, what we call condition, cause, and remedy. So anytime that any one of our lines goes down, we actually have a full record of why it went down, what the repairs were to really kind of fix that line, and then ultimately, I think the ability to then log how long it took. And so all of this data is in many different systems. Some of them are even trapped in PDFs or all old VHS tapes. So I don't know if you remember back in, when we were in grade school, you'd have these rolly carts where you'd have a TV with a VHS player. Sadly, we still have some of those in our manufacturing plants. And so a lot of that we started digitizing. But even when you digitize it, how do you make that all relevant to manufacturing process engineer or a technician that ultimately is responsible for fixing some of those? So we've done a lot of work where we're now using AI every single day as an assistant that pulls all of this data together and makes it relevant and really kind of accelerates that time to repair.
Very cool. Very cool. And I really appreciate the reference to the old VHS rolly cart. I definitely participated in that era. Brian, can you talk a little bit? Toyota has some experience here, as you mentioned, and has changed and evolved its approach to driving AI adoption, including establishing your role and team. Can you talk just a little bit? We work with a lot of other large organizations who I think they're kind of like standing at the base of Mount Everest, seeing this enormous opportunity, but going, where do I start? Kind of what's my path? For folks in that situation, can you talk a little bit about kind of what you've seen from the new approach, what you learned, and why it changed?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we did is that we recognized we had to kind of carve off a dedicated team. AI is not something that you could just kind of append to 5% of your day, 10% of your day. And we recognized also that AI goes across not just your traditional data warehouses, your data lakes, right, data and analytics group, but also it starts hitting into different areas that are generally managed by different organizations. So it looks at your content, right? Every piece of documentation that you've stored, let's say in a OneDrive or a SharePoint, it looks at your code as well. So you have code repositories that ultimately AI can help to optimize, to understand, and really, I think, create opportunities to then increase productivity in writing code. It looks at different content that we've never even really considered with AI, such as video or audio. And so when you kind of look at across the entire enterprise, you realize that it's not just the traditional data organizations that use AI, but it actually goes across every facet of IT and technology that we deliver. And so we really kind of recognize the opportunity to say, you know what, this is new. This is a game changer. This is something that is truly providing competitive advantage. So how can we really focus a group so that we can move quickly in this area and support all of the underlying technologies that could potentially leverage AI to improve and really kind of see that value of some of the things that's coming out of the market today. In terms of the why for Toyota manufacturing, early on we recognized that we had a problem without a solution, which was that we had these amazing veterans that have been in the company 20, 25 years, 30 years, but ultimately they're going to retire at some point. And as we're bringing on some of the folks into these new roles, they lack the experience, right? And so you can't expect a person with 2 or 3 years of experience to perform at, the same level as someone with 30 years of experience. But what we are doing is essentially we're enabling them to have this AI, these AI bots, like the Gear Palette I mentioned, to be able to really, I think, pull all of this to get, data together to reduce that mean time to repair. And we're actually seeing results. And we have folks that ultimately have come to us and said, you know what? Before Gear Pal, we used to have to come in a Sunday evening if the line was down, and it would completely just ruin my week because I would then be real tired in the morning on Monday. But now something that took me 5 or 6 hours to diagnose is now taking me 2 or 3 minutes coming from the bot because it's pulling together everything intelligently from all of the core sources, right? And I think that to me, that was, I think, the proof in the pudding where we saw the value, right? For the first time of being able to reduce that time to intelligence and to be able to really kind of get the folks that were new to the organization at least as far off as we could, right? Obviously, you can't replace 30 years of experience, but you can bridge those knowledge gaps and help them get the right information quicker than we've ever had before.
Great. Brian, you've shared some great wisdom so far. Maybe bring us home strong. You mentioned, for example, the data elements of this, and that AI goes beyond departments and it looks at code and content and all kinds of different. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of given our audience of data leaders, Toyota's efforts around AI specifically for data management processes and infrastructure, how you've thought about that?
Well, I think the first thing we did is we took a step back and we recognized that because the landscape of AI was so new, because generative AI specifically is now producing content, producing results based on existing data, existing IP, we realized that the first thing we had to do is really establish this responsible AI organization, which was not just the enterprise AI group, but it was also the data organization, our compliance organization, privacy, legal, cybersecurity, right? Bringing the heads of all of these organizations into a single review board to really help them, one, educate themselves and their teams with what the technology does and doesn't do. Two, really making sure that we were always above the board in every decision we made when we were going to bring AI into the organization. And then three, really, I think bringing it home in a way where everything that we were doing wasn't just understood above the board, but also was in the best interest of our customers, right? And I think that's probably one of the key things is that everything we do with data needs to benefit our customers and needs to be agreed to and accepted from a compliance and a consent perspective by our customers. So we kind of view this as making sure that the data works for our customers and leveraging AI in the most responsible and respectful way to our customers. And I think that was kind of a paramount of really bringing it all together.
Excellent. Okay, makes a ton of sense, Brian. Yeah, it sounds like you've created a model where all of Toyota can learn as fast as possible from AI innovation happening everywhere versus everybody sort of learning on their own in their own
Yep,
silo.
absolutely.
That makes a ton of sense. Okay, well, thank you, Brian Kursar, Group VP and Head of Enterprise AI at Toyota Motor North America. Thank you for your comments on this, the first segment of our CDO Data Leader series.